Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha and today I'm going to be talking about my February TBR and content plans. January proved to be a pretty successful reading month for me. You can check out my wrap up tomorrow if you are watching this the day that it goes live, because on Thursday I'm going to be doing reading sprints and a January reading wrap up with my friend Yvette over on my channel. So if you're curious about my thoughts on the books I read in January, you can check that out. But today, this is our February video. So today you get to learn all the books that I hope to read in February. Now, I only have 8 books on my list, and I really don't have a lot of content plans, but I just wanted to tell you what you might be able to look forward to. But well, let's go ahead and talk about content plans first. I did do a couple of vlogs in January, so that's really good, and I'm really glad that I was able to find that creative energy to do those. For the month of February, really the only plan I have is to do my reading wrap-up live show at the end of the month, as well as, go along with the reading sprints and everything. And I'm going to be doing that this month with my friend Hannah from the Teachers TBR. Other than that, I am going to be doing my regular monthly reading sprints. The days just kind of fluctuate whenever I and my friends are available. But this month I have 3 reading sprints going on other than the ones at the end of the month with the wrap up. The first one is going to be on February 6th. These are all at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And this one's going to be with Ashley from Read Like Ash over on Instagram, Hope from Hope on the Coast, and Zoe from Zoe Delaney. Then on the 15th, I'm going to be having sprints with Caitlin from Pride and Paperback and Jordan from Bookish Gem. Then I'm also going to be having sprints on the 20th with my Gaggle of Witches. If you know, you know. That's going to be with Gwen and Gabby. Again, all of those are at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, as far as other content goes, I may be doing a romance reading vlog, but it's really just going to depend on how I feel. And if I do that, I'm probably going to theme it around the X's and O's readathon. So let's just go ahead and jump into my TBR for that and then go on with the rest of the books for the month. The X's and O's Readathon is an annual readathon that takes place in February every year, and it is hosted by Jessie from Reading with Jess. She also has 4 other co-hosts: Gwen from Gwendolyn Kinsinger, Summer from Seasons Readings, Jordan from Sorry Book Solid, and Lena from Lena's Bookshelf. This year, the readathon is going to take place from February 2nd through the 5th. There are so many neat elements to this readathon this year. They have bingo boards, they have teams where you can choose Team X, Team O, or be a double agent, and then you have bingo boards according to that, team that you're on, and then so you can fill out a bingo. They also have this really cool, photo prompt challenge where you can pick a chocolate from a chocolate box, and whatever chocolate you pick, that is the photo prompt that you'll do. So lots of really cool things going on with that readathon, as well as some reading sprints on the first day of the readathon, and then on the last day they're going to do a live show reading wrap-up type deal. So for that readathon, I have 2 or 3 books that I'm going to see if I can fit in. I'm not really reading really fast right now, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to read these all, but we'll just see. I want to tell you what my options are. So my first option, and probably the first book that I'm going to end up reading in February, is one that came as a bit of a surprise to me. So I recently, a couple months ago, well, I guess it was back in the fall, I read my first book by Gracie Ruth Mitchell, and that was Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder. I really loved that first book in the Happily Ever Homicide series. It's kind of a mashup between a cozy mystery and a romance. So I ended up giving that book 4.5 stars, really loved it, and was excited to see more from Gracie Ruth Mitchell. Recently, she announced that she's coming out with a new book called Wish You Weren't Here. And basically, this book is a cozy fantasy romance set in a small coastal town with fake dating. If that's not enough to draw you in, this is the little blurb for the book. What would happen if you accidentally freed a British genie from his ancient British teapot? And what if that British genie was really, really attractive? So you have our main character, Clementine, and Clementine obviously sets free this genie from a British teapot, and he's a British genie, and she's not super thrilled about it, but he is kind of attractive, so I think it might be a little bit of Grumpy Sunshine too, or Grumpy, I don't really know. But Clementine vows to try to set this genie free. So he is trying to prove that he can live like a human. He has 1 month to do so, or he's going to vanish forever. along the way. They are doing like how to be human lessons, and he's having to pretend to date Clementine because she had this wish that went wrong and all these men are trying to woo her, so they are fake dating to keep them at bay. Now, I'm going to be reading this as an advanced reader copy because the author so kindly chose me as one of her like ARC readers. So I do have a copy of that. I am going to have to read it on my phone, which is not my favorite way to consume a book, but I really wanted to read this one early and be a part of the launch team for it. And the book actually comes out on February 13th. So if you are in the mood for a cute, cozy fantasy romance around Valentine's Day, this will be a great time of year to pick it up. My next option for the readathon is 8 Perfect Hours by Leah Lewis. I have had this book on my TBR for so long, so it's really time that I get it off. I'm hoping to read it this year during the winter time, and if I don't read it this year, I'll probably unhaul it. But I think this is kind of a serendipity-esque type story. It follows perfect strangers, Noelle and Sam, who meet by chance during a blizzard and spend one perfect evening together. They think they'll never see each other again, but fate seems to have different plans. Next, I have a book that was on my X's and O's TBR from last year, and I never read the book. So it is back on this one because I really am excited for this. I've heard nobody talk about this book. So it's the Romcom Agenda by Jane Dinker. She does have a new book coming out, and I would love to know if I enjoy her writing enough to pick up another book by her. Because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this one, I thought that I would just go ahead and read the blurb on the back or the whole synopsis, so that way you would know if this is a book you'd like to pick up. You know how the story is supposed to go, but love makes its own plans. Step 1, find yourself. Leah Keegan is used to being alone, especially after taking care of her sick foster mother for the past year. But now there's nothing keeping her in the sweet town of Willow Cove. It's time to move on, again. Step 2, win back the one who got away. Eli Masterson thought he and Victoria were meant to be together until she decided to jet off to Rome for a year. Eli is determined to win her back, but how? Step 3, become a romantic hero. Changing Eli's physical appearance is easy, but to turn Eli into the sophisticated yet vulnerable ideal man, his girl pals force him to watch classic rom-coms and take notes. Step 4, fall in love. Inadvertently drawn into the makeover scheme, Leah ends up being Eli's guide through the wild world of meet cutes and grand gestures, even though she believes Eli doesn't need to change a thing about himself, even though she just might be falling for Eli and Eli for her. It's friends to lovers, and there's like rom-com elements, and I love how like she and some other girls are trying to fix him up to make him like the ideal man, but she's falling in love with him. That just sounds like the cutest story, so hopefully it's a good one. I don't know, like, since I haven't heard anything about it, but it still just makes me so giddy whenever I read the synopsis. That's all for my X's and O's Readathon TBR. I do have some buddy reads coming up this month. So it is the off month for Revive Christian Book Club, which is my bi-monthly book club, but I always get excited about reading with friends. So I did pick a couple of buddy reads that we'll be discussing in Discord throughout the month. Very casual. There's no like planned discussion or live shows or anything like that. But we just recently read Dust, and I had to pick up Shadow by Kara Swanson. This is the second book in the Dust duology. It is a Christian fantasy duology, and I really enjoyed the first one. It is a Peter Pan retelling, and it follows Claire and Peter Pan, and you have dual perspectives in the book. There's a lot of mental health representation. There's some great quotes, great messages, and I highly recommend the series. The first book left off on a cliffhanger, so I'm really excited to pick back up in the second half. And the second book is supposed to take place more in Neverland, I think, than the first book did. The first book was in London, but I love the setting either way, so really excited to continue on with this one. And then, because it's February and it's the season of love, and I really have been wanting to read this book for a long time and I haven't yet, I decided to add My Phony Valentine by Courtney Walsh to a buddy read as well, because I was going to read it anyways, or hope to, so I figured if I just did a Revive buddy read, it would tempt me to read it a little bit quicker. So, I love Courtney Walsh. I've read a couple of her Christmas books, and that's really all I've read from her. But I read the first chapter of this book last year, and it was so cute and so funny, and I really want to get back into it and finish the whole thing. So this is a like sports hockey romance type deal, fake dating. It says, a chance meeting, a hunky hockey player, a fake romance, hardly an ordinary day in the life of Poppy Hart. I'm really excited for this one. She does a really good job of creating a clean romance, which is really important. It's not a Christian romance for the book club, but it is a clean romance, and the author is a Christian, so you can always guarantee that she's not going to put any smut in her books. There's not going to be a lot of cursing or anything like that. It's going to be a really clean romance, but super sweet, very funny. She does a great job of making you laugh, but also making you cry or feel just like all warm and fuzzy inside. I love her characters. I always feel like I relate with them really well. And I don't know, there's just something about Courtney Walsh's books that I absolutely can't get enough of. So I'm really excited to finally be getting to My Phony Valentine. And because I just can't help it with the buddy reads, like one of these wasn't even an intentional buddy read. It just happened later on. And I'll just go ahead and start with that one. I am so excited to read 1,000 Heartbeats by Kiera Cass. I know this seems like something that I would not read, but I loved the Selection series, okay? This is a chunker, but I flew through the Selection series when I read it. It was about 5 or more years ago that I read it, so I'm not sure if I'm still going to love it. But Kiera Cass is a Christian who writes non-Christian books. So what I mean by that is this is not Christian fiction, but it's guaranteed, again, to be clean and no cursing and just like wholesome and God-honoring and everything that she does. So I'm really, really excited to read this. This is a YA fantasy, and honestly, I don't know too much about it, and I don't really want to know a lot going in. But my friend Jordan from Bookish Gym really wants to read this one too, and so we're going to be buddy reading it together. Just for kicks and giggles, I will read the little quote that's on the back here, and I'll show you because you've got her on the cover, and then you've got this guy on the back, and I really think it's pretty, and it's just like all the pinks and purples for Valentine's. It just feels like the right time of year to read it. But on the back of the book, it says, "I told myself that it had been the rain. It was something hitting the mountain, or a tree falling, or anything else really. But every time Lennox smiled or touched me, or even looked at me a certain way, I would hear it again, the sound of 1,000 heartbeats." I really hope this is a good one. And then the last buddy read that I have for the month is continuing on in the Throne of Glass series. So I'm going to be reading Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas with my friend Elise previously from a Virgo Rising Reads. She is recently rebranded, and now she is from Literally Elise, which is kind of hard to say because it makes you want to say literally, but it's literally Elise. I love it. Okay, so we're going to be reading Crown of Midnight. I did end up, for the most part, enjoying Throne of Glass, and so I decided to continue on with this series. Will I love it as much as ACOTAR? I don't think so. I think I'll appreciate that there's not as much smut in this one as there is in ACOTAR, because I love ACOTAR's story, but I just feel like there's so much unnecessary smut. It's crazy, but this one's supposed to be a little bit more YA, a little bit more clean. Not that there's not some smut that comes in later, I think, but it shouldn't be as much as ACOTAR. So, I don't know. I'm vibing with it right now, so hopefully I'll continue to enjoy it. And then the last book that I have on my list for the month is my Christian nonfiction book. I try to put a Christian nonfiction book or some type of Christian book on my list every month. I don't always do a good job of disciplining myself to read them, but I really have been wanting to do a study on Elijah. And a lot of that has to do with is it 1 Kings? I feel like it would tell me in here. I think it's 1 Kings, but I could be wrong. I haven't really read a ton of the Old Testament for a while, and I really wanted to read more on Elijah and his story. And in 1 Kings, where he is threatened by Jezebel to go out, they're going to kill him, and so he goes out into the wilderness, and he goes up under this tree, and he just prays the Lord to take his life. He's like, I'm done. I'm no better than my ancestors. All these people just want to kill me. Like, I'm just done. And so in his depression, the Lord gives him a nap and a snack, and then tells him, all right, let's get up and keep going. And I also love in that story where God comes to him in a gentle whisper. It talks about how God, there was a fire, but he didn't come by the fire. There was an earthquake, but he didn't come by the earthquake. There's all these big things, and sometimes we expect God to come in a big way, but sometimes he comes in a gentle whisper, and I love that, and I just really want to get more into the story of Elijah. So with all that being said, I got These Are the Days of Elijah by R.T. Kendall, how God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. So I'm hoping this will be a good companion as I go through that study, and I think that's going to be all of the books that I want to read in February. I'm really excited for all of these books. You'll have to let me know what book you're most excited to read in the month of February of all the books on your TBR. it's really hard for me to pick which one I'm most excited about, because obviously I'm really excited about continuing in these two, but then I'm also, I don't know, I'm also really excited about this one, and I'm also really excited about the new Gracie Ruth Mitchell. But I think I might say I'm most excited for this because I have no idea what I'm getting into, and I'm just really excited for it. So we're gonna say it's 1,000 Heartbeats. So if you made it this far in the video and you just wanted to leave a comment but don't know what else to say, you can leave any type of heart emoji that you please down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.